I frequently get emails that say, "How long is it going to take me to do my first acquisition?" Well, I don't know. Is the short answer. I don't know how much action you take. I don't know how motivated you are. I don't know what industry you're in. I don't know what the team is that you've built around you. So there's a lot of things that I don't know. But perhaps this podcast will give you some insight into how you get a deal done the quickest. So first of all, you've got to put all the steps in place, have your team know the process, etc. If you don't know that, go over to brucewhipple.com. The all-new Deep Dive Bootcamp will give you that information. There's also free information over there as well. But let's assume you've done that. Let's assume that you know the steps and you've got an industry that works and you've got a team that works and professionals. Okay, so let's talk about an example of a mentee of mine that closed a deal very, very quickly. He had sent letters, cold calls. He sent a letter, I believe it was, to a potential prospect. Nothing came of it. That was back in March of this year. But then on September 29th, he got a phone call saying, "I've thought about it. I really do want to sell the business. I thought I could sell it to somebody else, but that didn't work out. And so let's talk." So they did talk. And this seller, potential seller, which was now an active seller, said, I'm tired of this. I just want to get it done. I want to take care of my employees. Okay. So that was his motivation, and he seemed extremely motivated. So the mentee told him the only way that you can get this deal done quickly is through 100% seller finance. He said, "Okay, we'll do that." He also, the seller, said that you've lost some customers here, so I'm not going to give you very much for this business, and if I lose a certain amount of customers in the first year, I'm not going to make a first year payment. The second year payment I will make. It was only $20,000, but those were the conditions. And the seller said, "Okay, I just want to get this done." So September 29th, contact. October 7th, 9 days later, close the deal. So maybe that will give you some insight into what happens, why somebody moves quickly. Yes, top on your list is you want a motivated seller. You also want to have a business that cash flow will cover debt service. In this case, he ended up with EBITDA sufficient to make that pretty easy. Oh yeah. And also at closing, he had title transferred to 2 automobiles worth $40,000. So he's got EBITDA in the 6 figures. He's got 2 automobiles worth $40,000, and he is only obligated to pay $20,000 in the second year, unless the customers are not lost, and then he has to pay another $10,000 in the first year. Pretty good deal. But what are the conditions that made that happen? Number one, he took action. He had sent a lot of letters. He made a lot of phone calls. Some of them were interested, some weren't. He followed up because conditions like this change in time sometimes. And 2, knowing the situation, he pushed seller finance and the conditions under which he would do it. He was clear on that. There wasn't a lot of haggling back and forth. And ultimately he closed it. So 9 days to get that deal done. That's the quickest from the discussion, working on an LOI, and then closing a deal. So for those that wonder how quickly it can happen, that's a pretty good example. At the other end of the spectrum, there's plenty of people that don't take action, don't get things done, and never do a deal. So you perhaps would want to think about which side of that ledger you want to be on and what actions you need to take to be able to close a deal and close it the quickest, knowing that you want a good deal. Cash flow's got to cover debt service, and it's got to make sense from that standpoint, or it's a no-go. So again, brucewhipple.com. There's plenty of free material over there, and there's also the Deep Dive Bootcamp, which will tell you the steps that this mentee followed.